everyone. This is Frank Kalman, managing editor of Workforce Magazine. We have Nate McMahon, who is the Senior Vice President of People and Technology at the Motley Fool. He will be speaking at our Workforce Live event in Washington, D.C. on April 28th. Nate, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, Frank.
So, Nate, we're all excited for your talk coming up in the next month here. Just wanted to get a sense of, how you came to the Motley Fool. What's your career background? What's your background?
Okay, so this might come to a shock to attendees, but my background is software development. I started out as a software developer at the Motley Fool 18 years ago, actually 18 years ago in a couple weeks. Before that, I worked for a federal contractor as a software developer, and then I came to the Motley Fool. And I did that for a while, and then I kind of climbed the traditional corporate ladder. I started managing people, as most people do when they start climbing that ladder. And then I started getting into project management and getting really excited about software project management and new ways of developing software. So I started getting into Agile software development, which is kind of a break from traditional waterfall project management, where you collect your requirements, and then you take those requirements and build the thing and then deliver it, and that whole process can take years sometimes, and at the end of which you deliver your software product, and you realize that, well, your customer actually didn't want those features, or you've misinterpreted it, or the market has changed, or so we started playing around with Agile software development, and what came along with it was a cultural change of, in place of command and control hierarchy, where you're being given software requirements and then you're being told what to do, you're empowering teams to work in tighter cycles. Instead of gathering feedback and negotiating on contract and cost, you're like, hey, why don't you just work with your customer, maybe in fact talk to them, and maybe we don't need managers involved. Maybe those teams can be self-managing. Maybe they know better than anybody else how to get the work done, instead of going through these different gates and red tape. So I got really interested in that because we're seeing immediate results on that kind of process. But that whole cultural shift involved a lot of coaching individuals, coaching teams, kind of helping them along into developing themselves as a high-functioning team, which was kind of counterintuitive if you look back on traditional ways of managing folks. So I got really involved in that, and really involved in behavioral change, all that kind of stuff. And then someone in our HR department took notice and said, hey, can you do what you're doing with software development to the rest of the organization? So that's when I made a big shift. I broke away from technology and started doing executive coaching, team coaching, and then after a couple of years of that, I started going back to my technology roots and realizing, hey, we're doing some really great stuff here. It's unique. How do we do that at scale? And lo and behold, there's some technology solutions that we can put in place. So I started blending the two into what I do now. How do we scale our best practices, our people practices, to a company that's growing in headcount? So we've gone from a 50-person company all the way up to 400 back in the dot-com days, and went through that hop and steadily grew again. But how do we do that effectively and still kind of maintain our culture along the way?
Very cool. So what are you planning on talking about at Workforce Live on April 28th?
Yeah, so kind of like the one big takeaway I hope the audience gets at it. The ways that we manage people now, HR practices, management practices, are all relics of the Industrial Revolution, if you think about it. Performance appraisals, those kinds of policies and procedures, the way that we incentivize people, the way we motivate people, it's kind of born out of that late 19th century, early 20th century. And if you take a look at the rate of innovation that has happened, and just technology is an easy one. We have evolved so quickly and so fast, but we have not done that to our best practices. We haven't done that to the way that we manage people. It had worked for a manual labor workforce where you're stamping out widgets. And I'm sure your Dan Pink fans out there will all know this. We are catering to a new type of workforce, a new knowledge-based worker. Those techniques don't work, but yet we still apply those things. And even if servant leadership is a great one, okay, I think most people would agree. That's what we want to do. We want to be serving our people. But even with those kind of practices, we fail to embrace the belief system behind them. I think there's still a lot of command and control philosophy out there, and they're trying to adapt these new next practices, if you will. But really, you're seeing this in revisions of the performance appraisal or performance review. It's like, yeah, we need it. We hate the performance appraisal process. We hate the performance review process. We're going to get rid of it. But really what we're going to create, we're going to take this next practice that somebody's created, this new idea, and really we're just going to recreate the performance review process. So they don't quite understand the philosophy behind that. So I'm hoping people will understand there's a call to change, but there is at the very start of it, you really need to believe it's an employee-driven workforce that you're driving for. So that's what I'm hoping people will get out of this.
Very cool. We look forward to hearing the totality of your talk in a couple weeks here. So before I let you go, what's something fun about you that doesn't involve work, that doesn't involve being at the Motley Fool?
Kind of involves work. So I am a huge DC punk rock fan.
Oh,
if you know any punk rock aficionados out there, DC has a great culture of kind of the underground punk scene. And what draws me to that is, in particular, DC this straight edge, like DC straight edge punk rock. And it was all about it was anti-drug, it was anti-drinking, it was, no smoking, that sort of thing. And I think it goes unnoticed. In the 80s, when the big kind of anti-drug movement was happening, the people that were making a difference was the people who were creating a culture behind that movement, making it cool to be, to say no to drugs and that sort of thing. So I love the music. I love the scene. I still go to shows. It's still rich in the DC area, and I'm sure some of your folks understand that. But I just eat all that up, and it just blends really well into my philosophy that I take to the workplace. So.
Yeah, that culture point. It's crazy how you can find some transferability in unlikely places when it comes to HR. Yeah, that's right. Definitely. Very cool. Well, thanks, Nate, for joining us. We look forward to hearing your talk. If you haven't registered, we've got Workforce Live coming to Washington, D.C. on April 28th. I'm Frank Kalman. We'll see you guys in a month.